moving upriver just a little bit more is the Eastmanville Bayou property. And this is 157 acres. And it's 1.7 miles of riverfront. So it's a really extensive property. These are Virginia bluebells, which are a state endangered plant. And they're more of a southern species, but the Grand River kind of moderates the temperatures and creates little microclimates, so they're able to grow right along the Grand River. And there's a number of places where they grow along the Grand, but this is believed to be the biggest stand of Virginia bluebells in the state of Michigan. And we are going to be opening some trails there at this property next spring, where we've got this site pretty well developed. We just had an improvement project that was going on last year and kind of didn't quite get wrapped up last fall, but there'll be quite a series of trails at this property, and beautiful trails right along the river that'll be really fun for hiking. So you could go out there next spring and see that. So this parking lot is in place. The entrance drive is here, the parking lot. There's a little boat launch down on the Eastmanville Bayou side, so you can launch a small boat there and fish in the bayou. But there's also a kayak launch, which you see here, and the end of it here on the riverside. And this was just in place for a month and a half or so, or 2 months last year, but really got to be popular. People really enjoying, because it's a barrier-free kayak launch. So that guy is going to roll right up on rollers onto that launch on his kayak, and then he'll be on a stable spot and he can get out of the kayak easily. You know how it is. I mean, you don't have to be in a wheelchair to have problems getting in and out of a kayak. I can assure you that. So I think that's why people were so excited to see that. And our vision is that there would be one of these at Conner Bayou, and maybe even this next year, but in the near future, and then another one upstream further. So there'd be a little network of those launches that would be about a 2-hour paddle apart. So that's what we'd like to accomplish. So this site is pretty well done, but the trails are not fully marked yet. They're built, but all the trail signing isn't in place. So that'll happen here soon. A little bit further upstream is Deer Creek Park, which is one of those original parks, which is that little triangle right there at the end of 60th Avenue. And then we acquired this piece of property and then all of this property here, which is Rips Bayou. So now our ownership encompasses all of Rips Bayou, which you can see a little bit better here. Another one of these long, narrow bayous that are really quite deep and really quite excellent for fishing. This was my first trip in there fishing with a buddy of mine, and the trick is, here's, as I say, here's Deer Creek Park and the mouth of Deer Creek. We have a little launch there, so you can launch a canoe, kayak, or whatever, and go right up here, this is actually an island, it doesn't look like it in this picture, but go right up here, and then right here there's a drag spot where you can, there's a trail where you can drag a kayak into the bayou, and then it's a no motorized zone, but you can paddle in this bayou. And boy, I tell you, in my one fishing trip there, it was pretty amazing. We caught 3 or 4 big pike and a whole bunch of bluegills in just an hour and a half. And then one of my buddy got a big bass on, and as the bass was coming up to the boat, this monstrous pike with a mouth this big around came up, and it saw us and flared at the last second, but that pike was enough to inspire any fisherman, let me tell you. Kites Bayou, I should say, the only way to get to Rips Bayou, unless you're wanting to swim across the Deer Creek here, is by boat. And we hope to change that in the future with more access further to the east. But right now, unless you can traverse the Deer Creek, it's something that you really have to boat to get to. And the same thing with Kites Bayou. On the south, the future trail we envision being on the south side of the river, and if we can work things out with landowners, we'd like the trail to go through this area. Because like this site, like so many places on the south side of the Grand River, there's a really high riverbank that has an old 2-track road on it. It looks like it was planned for a trail. And it's really high up, so it doesn't flood on an annual basis. And so that is what's happening there. But this beautiful bayou, another one of these bayous that is renowned for its fishing. And we've got a lot of hunters and fishermen that come in, buy water, and hike over into the bayou. Grand River Open Space is one of our newer properties. Now we're way over on the east side of the county. Here's Grand Valley State University is on the west side of the river here. So the river's running north and south, and we have 233 acres right here that most of it was just purchased here recently. Most of it with money from either the USDA, Ducks Unlimited, or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So they paid by far the bulk of the funds for that, and even gave us money to replant a floodplain forest that on this area right here. And the reason the USDA gave us money was this was an area very prone to soil erosion, and it was being farmed, so they wanted to see that taken out of farming. So they helped us fund the acquisition of a portion of this property, and then gave us the money to plant 15,000 trees and shrubs on the property. And those are tree protectors that you see there, and the trees are protected from deer browse inside there, and those tree protectors eventually decompose, and hopefully the trees will do well. Another property that we have acquired just recently, the stuff in red here is what's been acquired recently. What we were just looking at was this property right here. It's not outlined on this map. This is Grand Valley outlined in blue, and we have now 168 acres, 187 because there's a piece right here that we just purchased a month or so ago with half the money was donated by a family. So we acquired another piece right here. This is this beautiful ravine property. If any of you ever been to the Grand Valley ravines that on the riverside of the campus, it's just gorgeous land. They don't have much in the way of trails through there at this point in time, but we've got some of the most tremendous ravines running through this property, and the same ones extend through the Grand Valley property. So really a dramatic site. You can see the ravines with this topo map. Here's the property we're talking about down here, and you can see just kind of graphically kind of the depth and the significance of these ravines. There are massive tulip, like multi-stem tulip trees growing up out of these ravines. The tulip trees being another tree or plant species that's more southern in nature, but because of the moderation of the climate down in these deep ravines, they can grow there, and it's just gorgeous. There's some Kentucky coffee trees out there, which are another plant that would be more southerly. And there's an active eagle's nest on the piece that I said we just bought a month or so ago, and that's a picture of that eagle's nest. So we've got, I think, 3 active eagle's nests on park properties, and that's kind of fun because there's only a handful of nests in the county. These are just some more views of the property. There is one structure on the property. It's on this big bluff overlooking the river. In fact, this shot here is right by the house. It's on this big bluff. You don't see any development in any direction, and it's just a gorgeous spot. So we just bought it. Right now it's open. If you're off of 42nd Avenue, you'll see a little sign just to the south of the university, and you can park and hike the paved driveway in right along this monstrous ravine. So it's really a fun place to go hike into. But in a few years, we'll develop it more as a park, and this structure will probably be open for kind of like the Connor Bayou House for reservations and different types of functions. This is the house here, kind of overlooking this big expanse of river. And then somewhere in here, the property line is with the GVSU. And we're working with them. We're hoping that we can coordinate a trail system. So you could go to the Grand Valley Ravines property and then hike trails that would go through the property we have, but also the Grand Valley property, which would be a pretty strenuous hiking, but some of the more attractive hiking that you do around this area.